Stop me if you've heard this before. ESPN. They keep wanting Auburn to fail.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's Monday. That means we are joined by the Barnes, Lindsay Crosby. We'll talk about Auburn baseball sweeping Wright State, which Wright is not a state. Later in the show today, we'll also rank Auburn's final 4 games left on the schedule and what stands between them and another SEC championship. But I got to start with this. And it just seems like, Lindsay, the goalposts continue to move when you talk about other teams throughout college basketball and other teams throughout the SEC, except for when you talk about Auburn. Obviously, Auburn takes care of business against Georgia. They win by 12, I believe, despite the game probably being a little closer than that. Auburn ran away in the final few minutes there, and there were some free throws and all that stuff. But, Lindsay, a lot of folks, myself included, after Auburn was done, they flipped over to the Alabama game, the Alabama-Kentucky game, which was interesting until, a few minutes after halftime. And at the end of the game, the announcers are discussing, Auburn won earlier today, but goodness, they're not playing like the best team in college basketball. One of them said, I think Florida is the best team in college basketball. And it's just, these are the same folks that said Alabama was the best team in college basketball until Auburn played them. And it's just this weird thing where they want to hype any other team up other than the team who has won more SEC games than anyone else up to this point.
Well, I think the issue here is the SEC is 500 in conference play. And so they're really trying to
what a great joke.
There's an open question about who is the best team.
What a great joke.
Because
I love it.
The SEC is only 500. They've obviously slapped off in conference play. No, it's frustrating. It really is. This is the hard thing about the ESPN argument is they have a single data point that backs them up. And it's that Florida beat Auburn. They have a data point. So you can't argue with ESPN, even though it's very clearly not Florida. If Florida was the best team in the SEC, they would be the highest ranked team in the SEC. Last I checked, that's typically what you do with the best team is you rank them highest. Who's number one? Is it Florida, Zach? Is it the Gators? The Gators are number one, right?
They are. They are not. Sorry. They are not. I'm pulling up Florida's schedule. No, they are not. They are not. It is the Auburn Tigers.
Okay, I just wanted to check because
it's just the argument is inconsistent. And if you want to throw in timing of losses, that's fine. But Auburn and Florida, it's been a few weeks since they've played each other. The whole landscape of everything is different, which was part of the argument. And I'll put myself in this, is why so many people picked Alabama to beat Auburn, a few games ago. Obviously, that didn't happen. But just when you look at the losses, everybody's so quick to say, okay, well, Auburn lost to Florida. Well, okay, but then let's use that logic and who has Florida lost to? And let me ask you this. Would you rather lose to number 2 Florida, Lindsay, or would you rather lose to a top 10 Tennessee team and to a Missouri team that we don't really know if they're good or not? Which resume is better?
Oh yeah, it's 100% Auburn. I mean,
and then let's do the same thing. 10. Let's do the same thing with Alabama here. A team who lost to Auburn at home. And then their other loss is Ole Miss and Missouri, right?
Boy, Missouri's coming out looking really good in this show.
Yeah, sure.
Just from the upsets they have, yeah.
So to me, it's just what are we doing? What do we do? Is it boring? Is it boring because Auburn's been number 1 for such a big chunk of the season?
I think
I'm okay with that. I'm 100% okay with that. But at some point, the games have to matter. And ESPN, who broadcasts all of these, not all of the games, but not all of the game because they put the first 15 minutes on ESPN News or whatever because they don't know how to program college basketball up to this point. But it's the weirdest thing. I've never seen anything like it before.
Give ESPN some grace. College basketball is a brand new sport. They just started playing this. ESPN's still trying to they spend so much time giving marketing and discussion of MLB that they're still trying to figure out this new thing of college basketball that was just invented.
Yeah, it's like, ESPN, tell me you don't actually care about college basketball without telling me you actually don't care about college.
Even have that conversation when it comes to baseball. They have all the inventory in the world, and you're lucky to get 2 games a weekend.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. That's right. So to me, it's just this whole discussion about, I mean, I think it's even like trickled in and impacted the Auburn fan base. Daryl and I, when we reacted to the game, if you missed that, go check it out. But when we reacted to the game on this very channel, I mean, the live chat was flooded with a lot of Auburn fans that weren't satisfied, that were kind of nitpicking all of this. And it's like the expectations of what, what you should plan to see when it comes to Auburn basketball has gone up. No question about it. But also, like, Auburn does keep winning. And that's all that really matters. And there's a lot of good teams. There's a lot of good teams in the SEC that lost this past weekend. And Auburn didn't. And we've been able to say that for every game in conference play with the exception of one. And that just, for some reason, that doesn't appear to be good enough for a lot of the talking heads.
I think it's a little bit of your note of it's kind of boring. Like ESPN, given the inventory that they have, ESPN's incentive is to have people legitimately wondering who is the best team so that they go watch more than one game. Like, that is, if I came to you and said, hey, this team is clearly the best team in the conference, their game is now ending, are you going to be like, well, let me go see who they're better than? There's going to be some people who are just going to turn it off.
Yeah.
And ESPN's incentive, you see this with the college football playoff all the time. Every game that they're broadcasting at some point in time comes back to the playoff, and they're discussing, these teams going to make it or not? The
difference, though, is the CFP is their rankings. That's ESPN's product. They air it on Wednesdays or whatever during the season. Like, that's their product.
And they still interject the question into the discussion of, is this team actually the better team or not? Because they're trying to drive people. It's clickbait. It's clickbait in broadcasting form. And we're all falling for it. We're giving them the engagement that they don't deserve. I click on it every single time. But hey, ESPN is giving a nod to Auburn, and it will be reflected in 3 of the next 4 games. So we'll discuss what that looks like in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Lindsay, you use Prize Picks. I use Prize Picks. A lot of you use Prize Picks. And if you shouldn't, you absolutely should. March basketball is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. Lindsay, you can do it with any sport, even sports you may not be that familiar with. Prize Picks. The multipliers, I think, is what sets Prize Picks apart from other daily fantasy folks. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. What else do you want, Lindsay Crosby? 1,000 times of my money. Yes.
Yeah,
awesome. I love to go take the long shots. And I'm like, you know what? This game will be fun because I'm going to take $5 and build a lineup, and I'm going to take the longest possible shots. It gives me a rooting interest. And hey, if everything works right, I'm winning 1,000 times my money.
That's right.
You might not know about it, but there will be signs. It'll be mostly me behind home plate at Auburn baseball, but there will be signs.
Yeah, sure. Hey, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't have to win. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay, we've got official broadcast times and broadcast channels now for 3 of the last 4, or I guess 4 of the last 4, but 3 of them have been impacted. So Auburn will still play Ole Miss this Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Thank goodness it's a 6 o'clock tip.
Yeah.
That'll be on ESPN2. But then the game at Kentucky will be an ABC broadcast. The game at Texas A&M will be on ESPN. And, of course, Auburn versus Alabama. The regular season finale will be on ESPN as well. So we'll certainly see, how ESPN handles all of that coverage. Should be electric, should be exciting, with really all four of those games having a lot of implications, especially the last two are going to have a ton of implications, depending on how everything falls. But yes, you have something? You have something?
Do you think
Yes?
Auburn gets another game day when it's Auburn versus Alabama, who could be a top 4 team at that time? Do you think they get a second game day in one season?
That would be a major unforced error if they didn't go to Neville.
But Auburn's not the best team. Florida's probably playing somebody that weekend.
Who knows? Who knows?
St. Mary's of the Blind might have a game.
I mean, it would be incredible for both Iron Bowl of basketball matchups to have game day. Like, that'd be insane.
Be wild,
and that'd be so symbolic of, the 1 versus 2 a few weeks ago, which Auburn won. And then obviously, what Alabama does. And hey, I mean, it wouldn't be out of the question for Alabama to be number 2 again when that happens. So we'll see.
There you go.
We will see. Of these 4 games, they're all important. They're all absolutely important. And when you look at the standings now, Alabama and Florida are right there. They're both 2 games back from Auburn. A&M, I think, is another game back. And then Kentucky, surprisingly, they're ranked, but I think they're 500 in SEC play, which is wild to me. Wild to me.
Very well.
But, are there 20 games better than Kentucky?
The whole conference is 500.
The whole conference is 500. That's right.
That's a conference.
That's right. Yep. So, to me, when you look at these 4, I mean, I do think the home game in Alabama is the most important. I don't think it's the most unwinnable, though.
Okay.
Or I should say least winnable, not most unwinnable, but least winnable. Like, if you told me Auburn went 3-1 in these, I would say the most likely loss is in College Station.
Really?
Yes.
I'd love to hear this, because nothing against Texas A&M. I don't scream. I know it's on the road. I don't necessarily think of them as I know they're a good team. I just don't think of that as that's the trap game for Auburn, and not trap game, but that's the hardest one to win out of this group.
Yeah. I think some of it's matchup and style of play. I mean, they play some boring basketball, but man, it wins. And that's usually the type of style that gives Bruce Pearl coach teams trouble. I mean, we've seen it between Texas A&M and Auburn. Even when Auburn has won since Buzz Williams has been there, it's been gross. It's been ugly. It's been miserable to watch. And they're going to Texas A&M, and that's going to be a huge game for them. I mean, they may be playing for a number 2 seed when that's all said and done in the NCAA tournament.
That's
the number 1 team at the time. That's going to be a big deal for seeding. That could be the difference between them being a 2 seed in the tournament and a 3 seed in the tournament.
It's going to be really annoying if that happens and Alabama's like, you know what, we went into College Station and we won. That's going to be really annoying if that happens.
They could do, but they lost to Ole Miss. We've beaten Ole Miss. We got the chance to sweep Ole Miss this Wednesday.
They lost to UCF.
I'm just thinking of common opponents.
Oh,
they lost to Purdue as well, didn't they?
I'm looking. Hang on. East Texas. I don't think so, unless it's later.
Okay.
Nope. They beat Purdue by 4.
Okay. All right. I thought they lost to a common opponent in non-conference. Let me know if let us know in the comments who we're forgetting on that. But still, I just think when all of this is said and done, if I had to pick the least likely game for Auburn to win, I would say it's at College Station. I think most people are saying it's going to be in Lexington. I'm not buying this Kentucky team right now.
The common opponent was Houston. We beat Houston by 5 in the Battleground. Their season opener was Houston, and they got run out the building. They lost by 15.
Okay. Got it. I knew we both played Houston. Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
Common opponent. You were right.
Cool.
Credit to Zac.
Cool. Kind of right, but also wrong. If you had to rank, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. If you had to rank these games as far as most likely to win to least likely to win, what would you say? I'm going with most likely to win Ole Miss, Kentucky on the road, Bama at home, A&M on the road. From most likely to least likely to win.
I'm going Ole Miss. I agree with you there. I think Ole Miss is the most winnable. At least it's at home.
Yeah, that's the easy one. It's after that where it gets tricky. Sure.
Exactly. I think I'm gonna go Kentucky, even though it feels like you're a little cursed sometimes in Kentucky. Kentucky at A&M, Alabama, simply because it's
Overall
Alabama.
Talent. Yeah,
It's Alabama.
Gotcha.
There's no those games like we watched the Iron Bowl of football. Like those games don't make sense half the time. They're just nuts.
Mm-hmm.
We had the tractor lady going all crazy on somebody on a player on the sidelines, and they had to put signs. Did you see they had to put signs out reminding fans like proper decorum in in their arena, or you can be ejected and lose your seats.
Oh, that's so good.
The tractor lady.
I
didn't remember her name. Lady. I just remembered that connection.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's like, please don't touch Chad Baker-Mazara. Thank you.
You have not earned the right to do that.
No, you're a fan. You don't touch the players ever. But for some, like one fan base can do it. It's crazy. It happened like 3 times in that game. Don't need to get riled up. All right, and then as far as the most important, I think we all agree hosting Alabama is the most important. I'll actually say at Kentucky is the second most important because I'm kind of ready for that storyline to die. As far as it like these players, like were these players alive last time we won there? I don't think so. It's been a minute.
Casual fans still have that whole thing of Kentucky is Kentucky, and it's like, well, they're not really Kentucky anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like Auburn football winning at LSU. It's like that was nice when that was done. For more, like the win was great. Bo Nix was a magician that night. That game also kicked off at exactly midnight, no earlier, no later.
I had to do after the game on ESPN 106.7 after that. I was in Skybar at like 2 a.m. doing live radio.
That was why, as a grown man, it's not as fun.
I wanted to die. Yeah.
Yeah.
My upper 30s. That was awful. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. Let us know either in the comments down below or on socials or at thebarnauburn.com how you would rank those as far as most likely to win to least likely to win in your opinion. Genuinely curious. Auburn baseball sweeps, which is very exciting. Wright is not a state, even though that's what their school name is. What did Lindsay see this weekend, and what do you need to know about Butch Thompson's squad? That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. Lindsay, right now you can bet $5, and if your first $5 bet hits, you get $150 in bonus bets. Also right now, the Auburn Tigers plus 340 odds to win the national championship.
Wow.
It's absurd.
I'm really curious how much better the odds are for Florida because they're the best team in the country, according to ESPN.
That's what people are saying. I'll tell you. I'll tell you right now. No, I won't. Yes, I will. Florida's plus 900. They have the 4th best odds.
But
Auburn at plus 340. I know ESPN. I'll say it. I think ESPN was wrong. Auburn at plus 340. Duke at plus 370. Houston at 750. Florida at plus 900. Bama is at 1200, which is actually kind of interesting to me.
Listen, if you want Florida to be a favorite, that's why ESPN bet's doing so poorly and FanDuel's doing so amazing.
Interesting. What a dig. What a dig. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. A salty Lindsay Crosby hanging out with us on the Monday edition of the show. You spent a lot of this weekend watching Auburn baseball, as you do this time of year. This felt a lot like what I thought last week would have felt like with a sweep of Wright State. What did you see? Like, what was your overarching takeaway from this weekend?
The offense is as good as we thought it was, and the pitching's farther ahead than we were thinking. So,
okay,
one thing at a time, right? Offense. This is what we expected last weekend, like against Holy Cross. Some of that was the weather, right? It was very cold and windy. It was also cold. It wasn't as windy this weekend, it felt like. But
there's no question. There's no question the weather was better.
But against Wright State, and this is missing guys. This is without Eric Guevara. He's out with that hamstring issue.
Mm-hmm.
This was some of the best offense I've seen from this team since these guys all got on campus. And specifically, the freshmen have been very good. Bob Terrell, he went like to batting 5th by Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
He had 2 home runs in the series.
Love that.
Chase Fralick has spent time behind the plate. He DH'd.
Mm-hmm.
This is something Chris Rembert, I think, started all 3 games at second base. I could be wrong there. I believe he had all 3 games at second base. I'm checking right now.
Like him a lot, Lindsay. It seems like every time I sit down to watch, he does something impressive.
It's one of the more advanced hitters as a freshman that I've seen in a long while.
Yeah.
I think that deserves recognition. But the pitching has come together quicker than I expected. And in a weekend where you didn't have Cade Fisher, they held him out because of that lat that made him leave his opening day start. Sam Dutton on Friday night, 5 2/3 scoreless, 7 strikeouts. He allows 7 hits and a walk, so he's got to work around traffic, but he does it. He works around traffic. John Armstrong comes in and finishes up the inning on 1 pitch. And then they just they got a run rule kind of thing there. It was a group.
Do you
effort.
think Sam Dutton watches Yellowstone?
I've not watched Yellowstone, so I understand there's a Dutton in there. That's the joke
the
here.
Dutton Ranch. Yeah, that's the joke. That's the
joke. He used to be at LSU. I feel like that's not an LSU thing to do.
Probably not.
But he also might not actually be from, Louisiana. I admittedly don't know.
Where is Sam Dutton from? Let's look.
Is it going to take a look?
He's from Southside, Alabama.
Okay, there you go. A guy that arguably probably should have been here in the first place.
Maybe so.
Going to LSU.
Let's not fret on that. I'm glad he's here now.
I am super glad he's here now. Yes. The reason why I'm glad, okay, I talked about this on The Barn. I talked about this on the Barn Baseball Show. The thing Auburn hasn't had in the last 2 seasons is really that guy you can build the weekend staff around. Like one of the issues they've had is the instability in your weekend rotation, whether it was Joseph Gonzalez being hurt, whether it was Chase Alsop having some walk issues, whatever it was, you kind of had to scramble to figure out all your roles. If Sam Dutton can be one of your guys, and then Cade Fisher can maybe even be your second guy, you're not trying to fill your number 1 starter spot. You're trying to fill your number 3 starter spot.
A lot more doable midseason to do that.
Exactly. And so many other of these arms have flashed over the weekend. I mean, Cam Tilley looked fantastic last week.
I like him.
I honestly think that splitter's the best pitch on campus. I've said it half a dozen times now.
Is he like a middle relief guy though?
So he's come into middle relief in the last couple games. He did get a midweek start. I think Cam Tilley can be a weekend starter. And I was telling some people in the barn when this happened on Sunday, them using him in the midweek and then bringing him back on Sunday and having him go multiple innings, which he did, makes me think they're setting him up from a workload perspective to start on the weekend if Cade Fisher's not back yet this weekend in Texas when they go to Texas.
That makes sense.
Because, you're not going to throw him on Sunday and throw him again on Tuesday. That's too short.
Right.
Opening weekend, he threw on Saturday, Friday or Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So, you could bring him back on Tuesday. You can't do that now. So it makes sense. He's going to be available for the weekend. I think he could be a starter over there on the weekend.
Lindsay, 2 quick questions. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on either one of them. Talent difference or just overall, team difference from a ranking standpoint between Holy Cross and Wright State, would you say?
Wright
State
close. Wright State, I feel like, is a better team.
Oh, really? I wasn't expecting that
Yes.
answer. Okay.
Yes. I feel like Wright State's a better team. I have all the projections had them doing more when they got to the postseason than Holy Cross.
Okay, great.
They're both postseason teams. Like they're both projected to win their conference.
Yeah.
I think Wright State's conference is better than Holy Cross.
I knew they were both projected to win their conference. I didn't know like which one was better.
Wright State's conference is better. So if they're going to win that conference, it's a better conference. They're logically a better team to me.
Okay. And then Auburn's they play Samford on Tuesday, and then they've got a non-conference event in Arlington coming up. What, 4 days from now?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, so they'll play Ohio State, Oregon State, and Baylor. I mean, I know Oregon State's always good. What do we know about these teams? What will we learn about the Auburn Tigers this weekend?
They're going to see better velocity than they saw in the first 2 weekends, and they're going to face hitters that can better punish mistakes. It felt like in both of these weekend matchups, Wright State and Holy Cross, you got away with more mistakes and you got more help from the opponent. Errors, bad strategic decisions, things like that. The margin for error is smaller when you go to Texas. I've got them probably 2-1 in that tournament. I don't know. We
take that, right?
We absolutely take that. You take any 2-1 weekend, especially against 3 Power 5 programs, including Oregon State's a perpetual supers team. Ohio State's projected to be a pretty decent team in their conference. Baylor is one of the sleepers to make the postseason.
Okay.
Power 5 schools. 2-1 is how I have this weekend. If they drop one, it's probably Oregon State, but I don't love any prediction on those 3.
Got it. Gives me an opportunity to potentially talk smack to my in-laws, which are Ohio State people. So
my brother-in-law, also an Ohio State guy.
I always forget that.
It's coming. My brother-in-law's Ohio State, and my in-laws both went to Baylor.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
This is a big weekend.
It's very important that the only game we lose is Oregon State.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Very important to the family here. I have a lot of trash to talk to Tom.
I hope you're able to. Yeah,
Thank
Tom.
you.
Take that, Tom.
Listen here, Tom.
How can people check out everything you've got going on?
I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball, and whether it's the Braves, bravestoday.com, whether it's Auburn Baseball, the Barn Baseball Show, and the Barn Message Board, go check that out every day.
Yep. Hey, be sure to like the video. Please subscribe, and if you're listening on audio, please subscribe there and leave a 5-star review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.